All right, John. So this is take two. It's the beauty of not being live, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so we've got all the camera setups and the mics all working out. Funny, just before we clocked in over Skype, you and I were texting back and forth. I'm like, I'm just getting ready, and I was like, yes, someone like me.
Yeah, man. Well, okay. So I have a group that I meet with every Wednesday night from my church, and we're just chatting away, doing our thing. And I realized it's 9 o'clock, and I haven't set up anything. And so I go, guys, I got to get off of here. I got to go get ready for something. And ran in here and just started setting everything up. And then you said, hey, what's your username on Skype? And then I remembered I haven't even checked to see if I still have a Skype account. So here we are, man.
Skype is such an old technology, but it's one of the only one for free that I can just record the conversation as is. That works well. So Zoom is a good one, but anyway, Skype does the trick just to make sure everything is in touch. So you were hanging out with your buddies just before coming here. What kind of hangout? Like over like some kind of like conference call, or you guys see each other?
We just got on Zoom. There's like 12 of us.
12
hanging out, talking, checking in, making sure everybody's okay. Right now that's the big thing. I think more than anything is the lack of human interaction, like face-to-face, in-person human interaction. And when you go to like the grocery store and stuff, it's weird because nobody wants to look at each other or talk to each other, and they're not breathing near each other. And if somebody coughs, yeah, it's like The Walking Dead or something, man. I'm just waiting for the zombie apocalypse to start.
It's a good plot to a movie, that's for sure, man. I bet you, 20 years from now, there might be some real life stories, like documentaries or movies for sure. Because this is definitely a stamp in our history.
Yeah, it is. I think it's going to be one of those things too, where our grandchildren are going to make fun of us.
Yeah, because we're too idiot to deal with it.
Well, it's going to turn out like my hope is it turns out that it's not a big deal. That it's not going to be as bad as they originally said. I mean, it's obviously bad, but the hope is always that it's not going to be that bad. So,
yeah, the way I see it is, I'm just really hoping it's a wake up call. I'm hoping that we kind of like get by with not like just a couple of skids and scratches, and then we all sit down after and we're like, okay, this could have been worse. So how do we make sure this doesn't happen again, right? Because the infrastructures for virus researches, vaccines, all that stuff is so. It's not where it should be, if that makes sense. Considering the threat, like I was listening to other podcasts where they were talking about this virus that is especially in northern, like I think Wisconsin area and all that, Detroit area, all the infected deer with this virus, right?
Yeah, zombie deer syndrome.
Yeah, whatever that is, right? Well, here's the deal: the coronavirus came from an animal and it jumped to a human, right? Like, so the mutation happened this way. If that happens, I mean, like North America is in a bad position.
You think?
So. Yeah, so like when I say like hopefully this is a wake up call for everyone, I mean like a lot of people are saying that's not my original idea, but like it just makes sense to me. Like, okay, why don't we invest money in those infrastructures?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so what's Canada like right now? Because I know what the U.S. is going through and what we're doing. What's Canada like right now?
Canada is, I think we're pretty similar. So it's a stay at home order. All restaurants are closed. We're only open with essential services, and that can vary from provinces to provinces.
Okay, now are your restaurants open so that you can pick up food and stuff like that, or are they just closed? Period.
Some. Yeah, so you can like curbside pickup, I think they call it. You can do that, but so the ones that do manage to do it. But other than that, it's like grocery stores, pharmacies. The hardware store for in case your plumbing craps out on you or something like that, and then we're kind of all home. We're not interacting like in person with each other. I mean, like the kids like are having a hard time because they're used to just being out in the street biking with all their friends and all that right in the neighborhood here, and so like we're kind of stopping all of that. So it's so out of character for what I would usually want them to be doing. right? I want them to be like, like little bike rats in the neighborhood on their bikes and just having fun and exploring. But right now it's like, no, you can't. So it's bizarre for that for sure, but it's definitely, we're staying at home. I'm hanging out with like especially my buddy Pierre, and I from he actually has his YouTube channel as well, Outdoor Therapy. Him and I have been hanging out a lot over FaceTime, and we're both like heavy board game nerds. So
Nice.
So we found a couple of websites and applications so we literally call in with our phones, and then we're on our iPads. And now that we have all of our tripods and everything, right? So we set ourselves up in our couch, and we usually hang out like every night, 10 to midnight. We just play a board game.
That's really cool, man. That's really
And this
cool.
is one of those things where had this not have happened, we like him and I, because he lives about an hour away from me. So it's close, but and it's not like it's like two towns over. It's just like the territories are pretty large. It was always hard to get together to play, right? We'd try to get a couple of guys in. Let's do a board game night or something like that. Now it's like, dude, we can do this every night. There's no need to wait.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool too, because I think when we get done with this whole thing, one of the things I'm taking away from this is how much you appreciate your friends and your family and the people you care about. Because when you don't get to see them, you forget how much you want to be around them. And so like, I think I'm hoping people, we get done with this, are like, hey, I want to spend more time now with these people that I care about, and stop sitting at home watching TV all night and go out and be with people,
God, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, backpacking too, man. I hope like backpackers or people who've always thought about doing it or anything like that are just kind of going, man, when I didn't have the opportunity, I wasn't allowed to do it. Now I'm going to do it. Once I get the freedom, I mean, I can't imagine what trails are going to look like and parks are going to look like when this whole thing's done. I mean,
yeah. Especially because now you're taking a summer season of like 4 to 6 months into like 2 to 3. So people are going to be packing out a lot. Like I had maybe 6-7 trips planned already. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we might have to do that in 2 months instead of over 4 months.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was supposed to go, man, I'm like you. I was supposed to be in Michigan. We were supposed to do a Kentucky meetup.
Yeah. You had been working all year on that too, right? That was kind of your yearly project. Is that your initiative?
It was myself, Jeremiah Stringer, and Jason from Backpacking with Jason. The three of us were working on that together. And so that was going to happen, a couple weeks ago or last weekend or something like that. And obviously that didn't happen. And then we've got a trip coming up in May, but I have a feeling like we're not even allowed to leave the state of Kentucky right now. We've been told not to leave our state. And so if that doesn't change, I'm not going up to Michigan. Then there was a trip out to Utah that I was going to be doing with some other YouTubers. And I don't know if that's going to happen. And there was a trip I was supposed to do to Washington in the fall. And now that's kind of in limbo. That's like in September. But, what happens if this goes into the fall, So that's kind of a bummer because for guys like us who do that a lot, it's just kind of like that's what we live for. We live for our families, and we live for being able to go out and have these adventures and these times out in these places we've never been. And man, it just stinks, dude. It's awful.
It does. Yeah. I have to say, I was on the first take. When we first tried this out. I don't feel deprived yet of anything, if that makes sense. Like I have been, like I said, my life is extremely busy as it is right now. But what happened with this COVID thing and staying home, what it removed is the stress of my daily life. So like, I have the kids that I have to homeschool with my wife, working from home, organizing, having some free time for myself, free time for the kids, kind of juggling all of that, cooking, way more cooking, and cleaning dishes and all that kind of stuff, and living all together all the time, which honestly, especially for me, because I spent all of last year building the house that I'm in right now. And it was a year where I was basically away for a whole year, just doing that like every day. Like I really appreciate the time that we're all together. Like this is something that for us, like it's been really good to rejoice all together for having been so busy. But one of the things that this stay at home thing is removed is the stress. I can be an hour late and be like, okay. Like, that's the main thing. Like, it's like I still have all these things to do and work and, like I said, the kids and all that. But it's like if we're an hour late and we don't do reading time at 9 a.m., who's going to tell on us, right?
Exactly.
So this feels pretty nice in that regards. And you said something interesting, and I believe, John, you're a few years older than me. So you're 40?
46.
46. Okay. So because that's interesting with what you said earlier. So you're 14 years older than me, and you were at a point in your life where you were an adult when 9/11 happened.
Yes.
Okay, because I was a child, like I was like 12, I think. So like for me, like that memory is vague. But you said something coming out of this situation, we're gonna be acting differently within one another. I've heard a lot of people say how that was the case after 9/11.
Yeah, especially in the States. I'm sure in other countries it was an impact, but here in the States, obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, there was just a new level of patriotism, and when the big thing, like
Community.
I think in a lot of countries right now, sports is a big deal. You get away from the U.S. and North America, and it's soccer or football, as they call it everywhere else in the country, and when those things are taken away, because they're kind of a distraction for us. They're one of those things where we get to vicariously live through these athletes and what they're doing. I remember when 9/11 happened and the first time sports happened after that, and the way that the athletes and the teams and coaches and everybody acted, and the way they just were pro-America, it was really cool.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping
Singing
for
the national.
sing a national anthem and
Singing the national anthem, it was different, right?
yeah, it really was. But I think this time, I don't know if it's going to be a patriotism thing, but more of a humanity thing, because this is the whole is the whole planet. This isn't like this isn't isolated to one country or one continent. Even this is the entire planet. And so when this thing ends, I just hope we have more of an appreciation for humanity as a whole. That
Yeah.
we really get to where it's like, okay, social standing and class and all that stuff can just go out the window, and we can just be appreciative of who people are, regardless of where they stand.
And hopefully shift our approach with consuming so much things all the time uselessly. Like, I haven't spent a dime in 3 weeks, really. Like, food, beer, a lot more beer than usual. Being at home this much. but other than that, like I haven't even browsed Amazon for gear.
Wow.
In 3 weeks.
I can't say that's been me. I'm an addict, so I have a problem.
And I certainly count myself as an addict. I don't think I close my tab at work for Amazon. When I'm, in Google Chrome, it's just always there. And I'm, me and my buddies are throwing different things at each other all the time. And it's so freeing. I'm experiencing something that it's like, there's no need to buy nothing but what I absolutely need right now, because we're in a recession, right? It's not time to buy a bunch of crap. Like you keep all your money and you buy what you need, and then you see how long you'll last depending on what happens, right? But it's just this, I personally find it so freeing. I don't have to compete at trying to keep up with anything in terms of gear, in terms of little gadgets or anything like that. I just find there's a huge weight of consuming for me that's been lifted. And it's interesting you're saying I don't know if you've had the same feeling or not, but for me it's been odd. I don't think I haven't spent this little. I have spent this little in so long.
Well, it's funny. We actually, our situation is a little different, but it's because of this we had to spend money. My wife and I both have to work from home now, and we only had one laptop. So we ended up having to get my wife a laptop. So we had to spend quite a bit of money there, and then we ended up having to buy an extra monitor because what she does for work, she needs 2 screens. So we had to buy a monitor. We ended up spending way more money probably in the first week of this than we've spent in a while, even on my gear. So, but at the same time, it's tax season. We're getting ready to send our taxes in, so we'll be getting a refund, which will cover over that. And they're doing I don't know what they're doing in Canada, but here in the U.S., the president has ordered a stipend for people in the country where everybody who has who's an adult who makes less than a certain amount of money is going to get a $1,200 check. And then for each child you have, you get another $500. So a family of four is going to have a little extra money, which is kind of nice. And for us, we're not out of work.
That's really good.
Yeah, we're not out of work or anything, but we don't know what that's going to be like in a few months. We don't know what's going to happen with things. So we just have to kind of play it by ear and see what happens.
No, for sure. We're pretty lucky here as well. So lucky and unlucky. So I have kind of two businesses that are not working super well right now, if you say so. The house that I'm in, I built it and it's a bed and breakfast. So that's not running right now. Not the end of the world. I mean, like it's temporarily, right? And then I own property back in the town where I rent apartments. That's where we used to live, and I used to own the place. I still own it. Anyways, so far tenants have been able to pay. But it would be understandable if they can't anymore, right? But there's that, and so for the federal government here, they're helping us out. If ever you were laid off, or you own your business, you were sole proprietor or something like that. If you made $5,000 last year, everybody gets $2,000 a month.
Wow,
for 4 weeks.
For 4 weeks, yeah. So that's actually pretty good. So that helps. A little bit of help with the kids, but not that much. But we kind of make ends meet. But like, I live about 25 minutes on the highway from downtown Ottawa, which is where I work, right? So Ottawa's our national cap. So I save so much in gas just not having to travel, right? And that kind of different stuff. So it kind of oddly kind of all balances itself out. But we're pretty lucky with this, and the fact that I can still work is a blessing. That's for sure.
I'd say so, man. Like, you think if this had happened 30 years ago,
yeah,
I mean, nobody'd be working.
This would have sucked.
This would have been awful. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this right now.
I know that's a huge thing. It would have sucked in the 20s to have to go through that.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Even 1980. I mean, there wasn't even an internet yet. I mean, like, it's crazy to think, like, if it was gonna hit during a time period, this is a good time period for it to happen, because we do have a lot of advances and things. We have technology and all that, so it's pretty cool. And I can't believe how many people have gotten to talk to, through this medium. It's just really cool.
It's phenomenal. That's a great point that you're bringing up, because since the whole COVID thing, so I started the P podcasts in January, but it was only going to be like once a month, 12 episodes a year, part of my program.
It never goes that way, dude. It never goes that way.
Yeah, it never goes like that. Eh? And I always knew that what my podcast was going to be about, it wasn't going to be me talking alone. It was always about, I wanted to get to meet you, get to meet Jason, Justin, like the guys that I had been following from their beginning. I knew that's one of the things. I'm like, man, I live so far from everyone. That would be a great way and a cool podcast to kind of give an opportunity. Like, so far we haven't talked about backpacking.
Yeah, and very little.
We're going to get to camping. But it doesn't matter if we don't, because the idea of this is for us to get to know each other and hang out and have fun, but also for the subscribers to get to know you through a whole different lens, because you might never have the chance to go off on a rant about how humanity is going to be different about
this, right?
Other than in a long form conversation. And I think it shows a lot of the characters of the really cool YouTubers that so far, in the last 2 weeks, I met Jason from The Best Backpacker, which I started to follow him on, I believe it was his first video. Him and I were trying to go back during our conversation. When I believe the first video that he put out, it just happened to come up in my feed, right? And now I get to, we hung out for an hour and a half, and he's a super freaking cool dude. So that was super fun, right? And then I got Justin from Justin Outdoors. Now I think I started to follow you. I was trying to go back. You might have an idea as to where I started to show up in your comments, although I didn't comment at first, but I think you were in your 300s when I started to follow you.
Okay.
So it's neat to be able to to kind of get to meet you guys. And next week I've got Jeremiah, and then I'm trying to line up, a bunch of other
I'm going to tell you what, man, be prepared for Jeremiah, dude. Okay. So, he and I do a podcast, right?
And I listen to it all the time. For all the folks at home, actually, let's shameless plug that thing right now.
Yeah, it's a backpacking podcast. We found that we found it funny that name was available, because we couldn't think of a name for a podcast that's talking about backpacking, and so I typed in backpacking podcast. I just typed it in, and I realized nobody's podcast was actually called that, and I was like, so like this is gold. All we have to do is like whenever anybody searches for backpacking podcast, they're gonna find us, which I thought was pretty awesome. So we named it that, and it's me and Jeremiah Stringer, and basically we just laugh for an hour. Like that's the whole podcast.
The chemistry is insane. It's really good. You guys definitely need to keep doing that. And I love how, and you say it all the time, like it's not like you come prepared to these. I didn't come prepared to this more than the fact that I've been following you, but the lack of preparedness doesn't make it bad. It makes it organic. It makes it a hang. It makes it fun. Like I was telling this to, I believe it was Justin. A lot of you guys have been like my friends for a year now, and you've been part of my life in so many ways. Like I'll be doing dishes, I'll put you up there. Oh, new video, I'll put it up there. Oh, new podcast from Devin, I'll put it there while I'm mowing the lawn or going for a run. And then it's just, you guys have been occupying my, the real estate in my mind, if you will, by all these different mediums. And your podcast with Jeremiah is one that I particularly enjoy because I like organic, non-organic.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, and it's funny.
Right?
It's funny you say that because we had Darwin on this past week, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's super well outspoken. I didn't listen to your interviews yet, but I listened to him on Kyle Hates Hiking, or the whatever his podcast is. Trail Tales, great podcast for everyone at home, especially if you're in like the really nerding out about long trails and all that. But I listened to Darwin there, and I was like, whoa, that guy can speak and rant really well. Like he can express himself in a really cool
very
way.
well spoken.
How was your experience?
And I only had one question that I had planned for that whole podcast, and it was the first question I asked him, and that was really not even a question. It was just basically I felt like I was not good enough to be in the presence of him and Jeremiah just because they had such good beard game. I mean, Jeremiah has the beard from heaven right now, this big, beautiful red beard that he's got. And then, I mean, Darwin's beard has not changed in 5 years, man. Like, if you notice, it's like exactly the same. And it's like, I don't know how you do that.
Same ball cap.
Oh, it's insane, man. The guy's like, he is the model of consistency. And so like when he got in there, the first thing I said was, I just want you to know that I'm very jealous of yours and Jeremiah's beards. So that was the only thing I had planned for that entire interview. Everything else was just from the hip. And we told him that from the beginning. We were just like, we were completely unscripted. We're just here to have a good time and talk, and whatever happens, and we're going to run with it.
No, for sure. I might. I've been looking at catching up because I started to follow Jeremiah much longer in his journey. Like he was already in his journey quite a bit more than you, for example, at the time I started. So I started to look some of the older stuff, and I was gonna advise him that he should trim his beard back.
You should. You want to hear something really funny?
Week.
I got this new thing, this Roadcaster Pro thing. Yeah. So all I have to do is hit this one button, and it does this.
What's going on, Hawkers?
And it's there every time. Did you hear it?
No.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Well, they'll hear it in the thing. But I have a little button. If I hit it, it just says, "What's going on, hikers?" And
you did like the Shill Brothers they had a bunch of different YouTubers.
Yeah, it's the same thing they've got. It's so like I've got that. I've got one where I'm
freaking NASCAR,
mad about NASCAR, and then there's another one with Jason from Backpacking with Jason, where he does his catchphrase, and yeah, so it's a lot of fun. And we haven't really played with it much yet because we just did our first podcast with this with Darwin. So we haven't had a chance to play with it a whole lot yet, but it's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah. Technology has been one of the biggest challenge I've had since I started my journey. I don't want to invest too much money yet. I just feel like there's a lot. you know, the quality of your camera is a huge thing for sure, and sound. It's all really good. But, you know, a great example, I was just on Facebook earlier today, and I realized that, you know, Passenger, guitar player. So he sings, every Friday nights he's been doing some live streams, and he'll play a full record, like 50 some minutes of him just like playing live. And it's actually pretty darn cool. So I was listening to my wife earlier upstairs, and I was like, you know what? This sounds like crap. The setup of his camera is terrible, but man, it's good. And and what I get out of this is like, yeah, you know, I'm recording off my iPhone 11. That's what I've been doing, and I've got a Rode Mic Mini on top of it. Right now, I'm, you know, audio. That's my old studio gear from back when I was into music a lot more, and I'm like, man, if I had, you know, a better camera, better computer. My computers, I have a Mac Pro 2006 and a iMac 2012, and my Mac Pro 2006, because it's souped up to the top, like it's got all of the, like this would have costed 10 grand back then. Okay?
Right.
I didn't buy it 10 grand back then. It's better than my 2012. Anyways, so technology wise, I'm so limited, but to me, it's like, okay, if I can be as good as what Passenger is in front of a crappy camera and terrible audio, when I get the real stuff, it'll step up even more, right? There is a learning curve to be learned. And when I look at all of my videos, for example, I don't know if you looked at my last one when I was in the Adirondacks, my winter hiking trip. The introduction of this, to me, is my best production so far. Like, understanding how to play with 120 frames per second shots, how to pan properly, how to do some B-roll properly, lining it up with, you know, this was my first real attempt at trying to put something together. And whether I have a $10,000 camera or not, these skills can be learned with very little things. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. But technology has been brutal, especially for editing. It's been so brutal. I really need to invest in some, and within the next year and a half, it's definitely going to happen if this continues to be. And I'm having so much fun doing this. Like, this is, forget like business venture and all that. This is a new hobby in itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because I have problems, man. Let's just
Struggles.
let's just call it what it is. I have problems, okay? I have this like perfectionist thing where it's like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it really well, or I'm just not gonna do it. When I don't know if you know this about me, I'd never hiked at all, like intentionally hiked, except one time in my life when I turned 40.
To go where?
So anywhere. I'd only done one hike in my life by the time I turned 40.
Oh, I thought you had already gone to, which I want to talk to you about later, Kilimanjaro. But when did that happen?
That happened when I was 41.
Oh, okay. All right, go on with your story then.
Yeah, so like when I was 40, I had a really bad hernia and I had to have hernia surgery. And right after that happened, at the time I was a traveling musician a lot. I was all over the place playing guitar, singing, all of that. And
there's a lot of us in the community. Can you see it? Can you tell what it is?
I was gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you about that later.
All right, sounds good.
So I couldn't go out and play guitar. I couldn't stand up, you know, and so
oh god.
I had to miss some gigs, and what I found was I really didn't miss doing those anymore as much.
Okay.
I realized maybe the passion for doing that wasn't there anymore, and so I
it does fade away.
Back. Yeah, it does. It does. And so I stepped back away from it, and a buddy of mine calls me up, and he goes, "Hey, man, can we meet?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" He goes, "I got an adventure I want you to go on with me."
Nice.
And I'm like, "Okay, let me tell you about this guy. His name's Darren Wendell. He works for a company called Life Water. They raise money to build wells in like countries that can't have clean water.
Congo and all that, yeah.
All crazy places like where he goes. But he he tells me this. He had just finished a month before this or 2 months before this running 100 straight marathons in 100 days from California to New York City.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then before that, he had hiked the Appalachian Trail. He had hiked the width of the United States. He had
wow.
He had done the bike trail that goes from Oregon to Virginia. He did that. He
Wow.
swam across Lake Michigan.
That's
like,
impressive.
Dude is intense.
Yeah.
And he tells me, this like 290-pound fat boy, that he wants me to do an adventure with him. And I'm like, I'll eat with you, dude. We could talk, but I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and started talking, and he goes, the first thing he says is, I want you to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with me.
Wow.
I'd been on one hike in my life, and I've told this story before, okay? But the first hike I'd ever been on, I was trying to impress a girl. And so there was this little 3-mile loop we were going to do at what was the name of the park? Greenbow Lake State Park or something like that here in Kentucky. And I took her out there, and we were just supposed to do this 3-mile hike that ended up being 12 miles, and we didn't bring any water. And so we didn't go hiking anymore after that. And honestly, I could have cared less about hiking at that point, because that was a horrible experience. And so this guy asked me to climb Kilimanjaro. And I thought we got done talking. He goes, just think about it, let me know what you think. I'm like, okay. So I work at a church. So I went to my minister and I said, you're not gonna believe what this guy just told me. So I tell him what he said, and he just starts laughing. He goes, dude, I think you should do it.
Nice.
I'm like, you're out of your mind. He goes, no, I really think you should do it, man.
Okay.
So I left that thinking he's stupid and he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I went to my wife, who would obviously stand up for me and say, no, you're not going to do this because that's dumb. And my wife goes, you really need to do this.
She was trying to get rid of you.
I know. Like, all I'm thinking is everyone I care about in my life is stupid, And so I started training, and my first hike was supposed to be a 2.5, 3-mile hike, where the guy I was going with got lost, and we ended up going almost 7 miles.
Okay.
And my feet were killing me. I mean, I was way out of shape,
Yeah.
So my feet were killing me, but something in me said, that was kind of cool. I want to do that again. And so I just started hiking all the time. I think I hiked like 40 miles a week.
Wow.
Leading up to Kilimanjaro. And by the time I got there, I think I lost like 73 pounds.
I was going to ask you this because you started the story with so I'm assuming you're okay with that. You started the story saying you're 290 pounds. So you lost 70 pounds to go out there?
73. Yeah.
Wow. That's huge,
Yeah,
man.
I lost
That's
73
an
pounds.
accomplishment in itself.
And then we had kids, and I would like to say I still kept all that weight off, but I didn't. So I'm actually in the process of doing that again.
Here's the what is it called? The silver lining to this is you can always lose your weight. And I'm fortunate enough that I have some pretty decent genetics to start, right? Because some people will just be eating crap all the time; they don't gain weight,
right?
And but the reality is that's not a healthy way to live. Period, right? So I'm lucky in that sense. But I've been pretty for the last about 4 years ago. I made some really drastic changes in my diet and my approach to things and all that. A little bit like you, like the kids were 3 and 4 at the time. And, I'd put on a little bit of weight and I was like, man, I just don't feel the same way as before, right? I was getting sick all the time. And I made some significant changes, and I was training every day already at the time. Like, training for me has been part of my life since I was a child. Like, I was such a hyperactive kid. I used to, there's a time period in my life where I was doing Taekwondo 3-4 times a week, training in this when I like 5 to 10 years old. And then after that, I did tennis, or somewhere in there, tennis came a part of this too. And I was doing it 5 times a week. And my parents had to burn the crap out of me because I was unbearable. Like, I'm talking like I was just a very energetic kid. But if you kept me busy, I was a good kid. I just needed to move. Like, I just couldn't stay still, right? So I did that, and then I went. We have these programs here in where I'm from, in the province of Quebec, here in Canada, where it's called Sports and Study. So for high school, my high school in Quebec, it's a little different than the rest of the country. But our high school's from grade 7 to 11 for you guys. So we go grade 1 to 6 elementary, and then you go 7 to 11, which it's called secondary 1 through 5, secondary school, and then that's our high school setup. And for for all that time, those 5 years, I was in this program called Sport and Study, where I would go to school from 8 in the morning to 11:30. That was all 4 periods. There were 15-minute periods, 8 to 11:50, sorry. And then after that, I'd have lunch, and then I'd have an hour and a half of study periods, which is where I would do all of my homeworks and all that. And then from like 3 until 6, I would train on the basketball team. That I was playing on the varsity team at my high school. So that's all we did for 5 years. That was my life. Like, training has been a part of the thing that I do all the time, and I've been really fortunate to be a part of that. And to go through high school was awesome. But regardless of how much I was training, I was still putting on weight. And then I landed on a podcast. Man, that's a while ago already. But the first time that Mark Sisson went on to the Joe Rogan podcast, and then I was introduced to the keto / low carb high fat diet. And I mean, and then that started a whole trigger. So I got married at 206, and I walk around at 173 right now.
Wow, man, 36 pounds.
Right? Yeah, and
that's
it's
awesome.
kind of odd because people are like, "Dude, you were never that big before," and I'm like, "You're right. I just like, I kind of keep it all in, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, it's just like, but the point is that the only thing that changed for me was food.
Yeah,
and it's not that I was eating that bad. It's just the concept of like, you're just eating the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And you know, the message in there is that you know, I know you've mentioned that before on your channel and all that, but man, it's totally doable. You know,
yeah.
It
I've
totally
done it.
is.
Yeah, and I've done it,
And
so I
you've
know
done
I
it.
can do it. Yeah, I've done it, so I
Yeah.
know I can do it. And really, it's more of a. Here's what happened. Funny story. Okay, we're on Kilimanjaro, and while we're up there, I had this dream this one night. It's the weirdest dream I've ever had in my life. And I dreamed that my wife and I had a toy dinosaur, and the toy dinosaur could talk. Yeah, oxygen deprivation. But I had a dream that we had this dinosaur that could talk, and I thought that was the dumbest dream. And so there was a group of 16 of us up there, and so we're sitting around one night, and everybody just starts talking about these dreams they've had while we're on the mountain. And I mentioned that one, and my 2 buddies, Aaron and Darren, started laughing. And I said, "What's so funny?" And they said, "Your wife's pregnant." And I'm like, "No, she's not."
What?
I was like, "No, she's not." I get home, no joke, 2 days after I get home, I've got the worst jet lag. So I'm up at like 1:30 in the morning, wide awake, watching TV. My wife
Coming
walks
back
out.
is the worst.
Oh, it's terrible. My wife walks in and she looks at me and sits down. She goes, "You okay?" I said, I'm awake, you know, and she goes, "Okay." And then just something she never does, she announces to me that she's going to the bathroom. And I'm like, "Okay, go to the bathroom. That's great." And so I'm sitting there. She comes back out and she looks at me, does the jazz hands like this and goes, "We're pregnant." And so I literally found out 2 days after I got back from Kilimanjaro we were going to have a kid. And I don't know about how you were with your kids, but sympathy weight happens with men. Like, you know, your wife gains weight and you gain it with her. And unfortunately, I never really recovered from that, you know, and I wasn't doing any backpacking yet. I was still just hiking, you know, and there's a huge difference between the two. And so I was still just hiking at that point. So, yeah. So
sympathy weight is a thing for sure. For me, it just took me about 3 to 4 years. It took me 4 years from the time I got Charlotte until she was 4 to kind of figure out this new life. Like, I didn't start out like the way that you would want to start out. Like, you know, my wife, well, we weren't married at the time. We were living in my parents' basement.
Oh yeah.
And then you know, she got pregnant, and it's not because we weren't protecting ourselves either. So that was like out of the blue.
Right.
And we were 23, 22, 23. Charlotte's born when I was 23. So she, you know, so that happened, and then we announced it to my parents, and honestly, for us, it was always like, we got pretty lucky. Like, we found each other and we just got along really well. And to this day, like, you know, things are really good because kids change your life quite a bit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting to know your partner before you have kids is a really good thing. So we lucked out because we were only a year and a half, 2 years into this, and we were young. Like 22, 23 is not. I'm 30 now, and I'm like, I was an idiot back then, right? And I bet you
I'm
at
right there
40
with
I'll
you,
feel
dude.
the same. Yeah. So we worked hard, but we lucked out in the sense that we got along really well. But we got our kids, both of our kids, at my parents because it was not against the plan. It was just against the time. The timing was off, right?
Right.
So, and luckily enough, I was already working full time where I'm working right now. She just graduated university, so it was like one of those things. And my parents were like, we had just bought a piece of land. We were gonna build a house there, and then that went to hell. But my parents were like, well, just stay here, organize yourself, and then once you're organized, go. So this way you don't have to go out and rent for a while and be stuck in that. We were trying to build something there,
throwing money away basically.
So we got super lucky with that. But I mean, like, it didn't start out like, like, okay, you get married, you get the house, you move in, you live together for a little bit first, and then you bring in kids. It wasn't like one at a time. Like, my wife and I have never lived alone together.
That's crazy.
We don't know that.
Well, here's the thing for me. I never thought I was going to get married, period. And I never thought I was going to have kids. I mean, I was 40 when I got married. So I got married. My wife was 29. I was 40. It sounds really weird when you put it that way, but there's 11 years between us. So, but
it's not that bad.
Yeah. So, but we got married.
I mean, if you were, 25 and 14, it'd be different.
Yeah, it's a little different. I don't want to think about that. But no, it was one of those things where we met, we became best friends. And we decided after several years of being best friends to start dating. And a month later, we're engaged. And 3 months later, we're married. And it was just kind of like, I'm 40. I really don't want to sit and date someone for 5 years, at this point.
Yeah.
And if there was any window for kids, I didn't want to wait until forever to have kids.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about it. And we both agreed. She wanted to have kids too. And she was 31. I think when we had our daughter, 31, 32, and once you start getting up into your mid 30s, it becomes more dangerous to have children, and so
for women, for sure.
So we had the kids, and our second son actually, we had to have him 10 weeks early because my wife went eclamptic, not pre-eclamptic, but eclamptic. So she could have died, like it was that bad.
Wow.
And so So we had our son, and now she's.
Forgive my ignorance. I don't know what that is. You said
eclampsia. It's basically the easiest way to put it is your body gets freaked out, and it raises your blood pressure to very dangerous levels to where you could have a heart attack.
Oh wow!
And so she had gone from pre-eclamptic, which is scary, to eclamptic, which is terrifying. And so they immediately induced, our son's not supposed to be born until April, and it's January, so
that's early.
Yeah. He was born at 3 pounds, 12 ounces. And so just a little dude, man. He's 2 years old, just turned 2 back in January.
And how's he doing?
He's awesome, man. He's a little rugrat, dude.
Everything's in order?
Oh yeah. He's great. He's just now really starting to figure out like phrases and words and sounds. Yeah. And he's a little bit behind on everything because of being a preemie, and we expected that. So, but kid's funny, and he's just he's all over the place. He's all boy, you know what I mean? He climbs on everything. He wants to wrestle. He hits things. He bites things. He's just that.
He's figuring it out, man.
He's the dude, man. He's the dude. And my daughter is all girl. I mean, everything's pink, and she wants to wear dresses every day, and like. I mean, they're awesome. They're just so much fun.
And how old is she?
She's 3. There's 11 months between them.
Dude, Rosie and Charlotte are only 11 months apart.
Really? That's awesome.
So Charlotte is born on February 8th, and she's born on January 23rd.
Okay. Yeah, Jack was born January 29th, and my daughter was born February 26th.
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah.
Actually, a little less than 11 months. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's that's a great conversation to have. I would personally. So for me, my wife and I, we were just being like, okay, well, we already have one. We know we want a second one. It'll happen when it happens, and turns out
Right away.
it happened fast. So that's our story, because we're not planners.
Now, do you guys just
But,
have the 2 kids, or do you have 3 kids?
We only have
That's
the
what
2
I thought.
kids.
Yeah. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. By the time I was 25, I went to see this doctor here in town. It's called Dr. Wise.
Yeah.
And I took care of that.
Well, I lucked out. I didn't have
This
to
is
do
not-
it. I didn't have to do that one.
Because she
Yeah,
she had
she had to have a partial hysterectomy done. So when that happened, man,
Yeah.
like I all my buddies were having to go get the big V. I'm like looking at him going,
Yeah.
good on you, buddy.
You know what though? It's I was in there, so it's kind of funny. My story is super funny. My vasectomy story is funny, and I'm gonna share it with all the subscribers because it's just hilarious.
Nice.
It's not like it's gross. It's not like it's gross or anything like this. But I'm 25 years old. Most doctors will refuse someone that young.
Right.
But our family doctor, I said, listen, man, even if whatever happens, I don't want more kids. Like for me, that was what I wanted, and I'm okay with it. And I know I was young at the time, but then anyway, so she's like, well, you can go see this guy. I'll send a referral. I'm like, all right, thank you. So he owns, so he has a website. So you have to go on his website and read all of like the
It's like a disclaimer.
the agreements, whatever. He's kind of explaining to you everything you need to know and everything you got to do. So, and I call him. I'm like, I'd like to book an appointment. And he's like, okay, well, we're booked 6 months from now. I'm like,
Wow.
you're booked. And I'm like, okay, sure, fine. So, okay, 6 months from now, that's okay. And then I'm like, what time do you have? And then he starts giving me all of these like times every 20 minutes. Like got 9, 9:20, 9:40, 9:06, and 10 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, well, this only takes 20 minutes. Like, oh yeah, it's nothing. I'm like, all right. So I book a time, and it's like $500 Canadian to get the whole thing done. Right? It's with the meds and all that. So, and I'm starting to do the math. I'm like, dude, this guy is making $500 every 20 minutes, just like cutting it.
Yeah, right?
And I'm like, holy
Yeah,
cow,
but
that's a
think about something.
lucrative business. But anyway,
you have
so
to think about something though. You have to think about something. That dude is looking at dudes' crotches all day.
he's the man that has seen the most penises.
He earns that. He
of all
earns
men.
that $500, bro. Like, I'm sorry.
He's seen
He
them
can
all.
have all the money in the world because I'm not
Small,
doing that.
crooked.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. He can have all the money in the world. I'm not going there. I'm good with it. You know, I'm okay.
So anyways, so I get there and I'm a little late, right? And I figured that might not be appreciated considering like he's booked every 20 minutes, 6 months ahead of time, right? So I get there, I'm a little late. I'm not super nervous. I'm pretty okay with everything. So I kind of walk in. He's like, he looks at the time as I walk in the office. Like, okay, go there. Did you read my website? Yeah. What's your, what's your date of birth? March 2nd, 1988. It's like, okay. Pull your pants down to your ankles, to your knees, and just lay down on the bench. And my wife, in the meantime, because it's like downtown Ottawa, she kind of finds a parking lot, right? She drops me at the door. She finds a parking lot. By the time she comes back, I'm already in the waiting room. I'm in the waiting room, and I'm drinking a Coca-Cola. And she's like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" I'm like, "Well, they give you that." I'm like, oh, "Okay, that's odd." So I'm just kind of, and then she's like, "Well, don't you have to go? You were late." It's like, "Oh yeah, I'm already done." It takes like a minute and a half, dude.
Yeah.
And you don't feel anything. Like I was like, "You're already done? You didn't even touch me." He's like, "Yeah, it's that fast."
That's awesome, dude.
And so and then when you come out of the surgery room or whatever it is, they ask you want a 7-Up or a Coca-Cola just to give you some sugar so you don't pass out on them, right? So that's just a funny story. This thing takes like 2 minutes, man. It's not.
So he's the V King, basically, is what he is.
Yeah, he is the V King. And everybody in the area has gone through him.
Wow.
I don't know a single friend of mine or colleague or everybody goes to him. He's the guy.
That's crazy.
But enough of this.
You don't want to keep talking about vasectomies and hysterectomies and stuff, man?
Yeah, well, it's a funny story, but I'm interested to kind of hear your plans a little bit. So you said you 2 and a 3-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So I started to go out with my kids camping when Charlotte was 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
She climbed her first 4,000 footer in the Adirondacks with me then, the Cascade Mountain. And then from that moment in May, I was like, ooh, that's a game changer. And now I want to do that all the time, right?
Right.
So then when Rosie was 2.5 and Charlotte was 3.5, I did, I don't know if you saw, and the last 2 weeks I have this bike packing trip that I went on last summer with the kids. We did that when Rose and Charlotte was 2.5 and 3.5, and I had a whole you saw the chariot that I'm kind of carrying that I MacGyvered. So we changed that. At the time, what I had was my mountain bike. Behind that, I had a double chariot that I didn't tear apart, just a regular. And behind that, I had MacGyvered a way to attach a double trailer bike. So I had like this super long thing, and I would have both the kids on there. Rosie can reach the pedals at the time, right? So she's just sitting there having a good old time riding, and then whenever they'd get tired, I'd put them in the chariot and take the bags and wrap it around the trailer bike at the back and move it around.
I bet hills were fun.
And that's kind.
I bet hills were fun.
Yeah, you know, Le Petit Train du Nord is an old railroad track that they tore, that used to feed all the northern villages of this one area in the province here. So the max percentage is like 5% maybe, because a train can't go up a steep hill. So there's not that many hills. Like, it's not that bad. People are like, "Oh my God, your legs must be insane." It's really not as bad as what it looks like. Like, I'm not huffing and puffing once all day long, and we go for 10 hours.
Oh, that's good.
It's
I was gonna say, man, like you got all that stuff on the back of your bike, man. That's if you got a big hill coming, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, when we go into town to resupply, some of the hills there are crazy, but we just get off our bikes and we all push together. It's not
cool.
it's not the end of the world. But that's when I started 2.5, 3.5, and this is kind of where my channel name came from. You know, now it's only getting easier and easier, right? Because Père Extrême means extreme father, right? And it's just because people thought I was insane at the time. Probably with reasons, but for me, I was having a good time. Like, that was like the thing that I loved doing the most. So I just wanted to go out, and I had figured out that I could now. So now I was just trying to find every way I could, because I have a deal with my wife. I can go camping as much as I want as long as I bring the kids.
Oh yeah, you know, my wife and I, we've talked about that too. And it's like, as they get a little older and I can take them out backpacking with me, I can go out all the time because I've got the kids with me.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, in a way, it's kind of giving her a break too.
Oh God, and
you know,
yeah, of course, and we all know how hard moms work. So, you know, a weekend away is
well, the other
appreciated for sure.
The other thing is, like, I can't do long trails. Like, I want to do a long trail. I would love to go out and do the Appalachian Trail or the PCT or something like that. But my wife likes me too much and doesn't want me to be gone that much. You know, it was funny because we were talking with Darwin last week about it, and he said, because I asked him, I said, how do you guys pull this off as a married couple, you being gone for so long? And he just kind of goes, it's just kind of part of our life. We've just always kind of done this. Yeah. And so for them, that's just what they do.
Some people can do it. Yeah.
And so, and when I got married, I didn't hike. So this is way new to my wife, who has no interest in it whatsoever. Okay. I've been trying so hard to say, will you just go for an overnight with me one night out in the woods? I think you'll like it more than you think. There are bugs. No.
Yeah.
That's the response I get. Or I don't want to hike. You know, like, she's just not interested, which is fine. I mean, when we got married, I wasn't doing this stuff. So it's not like, how dare she not do what I want to, you know.
But listen, for me, out of my, you know, the experience that I have with this, because your kids are getting to a point where you might start going out with them a little bit. It's a really special time with you and the kids that you get, and you know, because the moms will bond a different way with the kids, just because, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, they carried the child, they were breastfeeding, like, you know, there's so that's kind of a really cool thing that's ours, that's the kids and I,
right.
And my wife does come from time to time, but like when she comes, she's in a resort. I do everything. I cook. I get up
Yeah.
with the kid. You know what I mean? I do everything. So, and that's kind of the deal. And I don't mind that. I enjoy. One of the things, I don't know if you're like this. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to bring a lot of new people to the outdoors and stuff like that. Whether it's backpacking or I don't like backpacking is only one of the things I do. I do like three to four main activities outside, but. Point is, one of the things I love doing when I bring someone new, whether it's one of my nephews, because I bring my nephews along sometimes, or some of the kids' friends, or other adults, I like to make them feel super comfortable. That's always my goal. So I take you out and I want to make you feel comfortable and give you the best time of your life. So I don't mind doing that for my wife when she comes. Like I kind of enjoy being able to be like. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll cut the wood. I'll set up the tent. You just hang out, man. That's the fun of camping. You get to chill.
Yeah. It's funny. I was going to tell you, my daughter every day almost right now is, Daddy, I want to go on a hike. Daddy, I want to go on a hike. Cause I've taken her out about 3 times now. And, we've done, there's a local, like a little trail. It's like a 4-mile loop total.
Yeah.
And, the first time we did it, she was just a little over 2 years old, and I've got one of those Osprey Poco backpacks that you can carry your kid in. So the first time was just me carrying her the whole way, and then we'd get out every once in a while and let her play with the sticks, and there was a picnic table halfway, and we'd sit on the picnic table and have a snack and have something to drink. Then the next time there's a place, it's like an old Civil War fort area. Nice. And the trails are wide open. They go through fields and stuff. And so I brought her out there, and really it was just to let her run around and just kind of get comfortable. And then we went to a place called Shaker Village that has a trail that's it's a 2-mile down and back.
Yeah.
That goes down to this waterfall. And this was this past summer, maybe this past fall. She was only like 2.5. And she walked a mile as a 2.5-year-old.
Nice.
So I was really, she walked all the way down to the waterfall.
And she almost made it back. I saw that video. She almost made it back.
Yeah, she tried, man. She really did. And it was cool because that just kind of sparked her interest. And now every time I say I'm going to go for a trip, she goes, Daddy, when were you going to go hike? Yeah. And so we had some hikes planned here in the next few weeks, but we'll see if there's some local trails I think I could still get her on.
Yeah.
But I want to get her out. My little guy is still not coordinated enough.
Yeah, no, and I mean like listen, backpacking trip is the hardest to bring your kids along with. Like I do a lot of camping with my kids, but actual backpacking, I've never done it with my kids yet because they're just.
I've not done that.
Like my Charlotte is 8, Rosie is 7. But I have like tiny kids. Like Charlotte is like 45 pounds and she's 8, right? Like so, like if you're hoping to put a backpack on her, like you just can't. Like she just doesn't have. She'll walk with you for a decent amount of miles. I haven't tested that out in a while, but it's just she can't carry her stuff, and like just like 3 sleeping bag, like carrying it all on my back is really hard because it's just so much weight. So that's why. And the other thing too is that for me, backpacking is a winter activity, period. That's when 100%. I go out. That's for me. It's like, man, there's no bugs, there's no people, there's no bears. It's super technical. I really enjoy the technical aspect of backpacking in the winter and the climbing technicalities and all that. So for me, that's that. And I think it's driven by the fact that I live in a place where there are so many lakes. I have fresh water around me like you wouldn't believe. So like portaging trips and canoe trip is like, it's the thing to do out here.
Now is Ottawa in the western end of the country? Is that where Ottawa is?
Yeah, no, it's actually, well, no, because we're in the same time zone, right?
Oh, that's right. We're in the same time zone. That's right. I should have thought about that. So where, like, in relationship to, say, Toronto, like, where's Ottawa?
I'm northeast for 5 hours.
Okay, so you're not far from like New York. Would New York be close to you?
Well, New York State, right?
Yeah,
So,
like Buffalo.
So So I go to the Adirondack Park. Do you know of the Adirondacks, right?
Yeah,
So
I grew
for
up
me,
in
it's
upstate New York. Yeah.
Oh, frig. Okay, so yeah, of course you know. So
Yeah.
so 3.5 hours for me. So and we cross through Cornwall and then we land on that Malone. Um, there's a reserve up there, like a Aboriginal reserve.
Uh-huh.
And is that not Malone up there? Is that the? And we come down like towards Saranac Lake and then Lake Placid.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so Lake Placid is 3.5 hours for me. The Whites are about 5, and then what I have also is I'm literally in between. 2 hours away from me, I have Le Parc La Vérendrye, which is world-class canoe portaging trip. You can go for 14 days in a loop on that place.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like 2 hours north from me, I have that. And at about 3 hours west from me, I have the Algonquin Park. And if you've ever watched anyone, some of my early trip videos, like in January, they were trips that I did last summer that was in the Algonquin Park. You know, like the big guys like Joe Robinette. You know of Joe Robinette, right?
Oh, yeah. I watch all of his videos.
Yeah, so he's like I've learned so much from the Algonquin Park from him, from watching him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he goes way more often than I can. So that's kind of where I'm located. So where I live, I have nothing to do. Like it's not like I can go hiking. I have the Gatineau Park here. That's world class cross country skiing place, and hiking and mountain biking is super fun. It's nothing like the Rockies or anything like that, but it's really good. So that's my training ground. That's where I do all my training all the time. But then I always have to drive about 3 hours or 2 hours, depending what I want to do, 2 to 3 hours, and I've got world class setup, right? Like Adirondacks, I never have to go hike anywhere else but the Adirondacks. It's a beautiful place, right?
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'm pretty lucky with that. The only thing I don't have, and the thing that I'm the most jealous of all of you Midwest folks is, I think Kentucky is Midwest as well, right? Ohio.
Might as well be. It's
Might-
like some
might as
people
well
think
be.
they're in the South. Some people think they're Midwest. We're
Yeah,
Mid-Southers. We'll call it that.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Oh, no.
You guys are so many. There are so many of you YouTubers, and a conversation I was having with Justin last week from Justin Outdoors. It's like once you find people that are willing to do, like to do these things, this activity, you cling on to them. Like me and my buddy Pierre, in the past like 5 years, we've become best friends because I know no one else that'll suffer with me as much as him. Like I don't know anyone else who is willing to hike for 12 hours in the rain for the sake of summiting a mountain.
Is he the one that did the hammock video where like it was strung between 3 different trees?
Yeah. That's Pierre.
Dude, that guy's
Yeah.
good. Like he's
Yeah.
I really like watching his videos, man. Like I had to think for a second because I'm thinking Pierre. Why do I know?
Yeah.
Why do I know who this is? Yeah, I've watched a few of his videos, man.
Yeah.
That dude's got great screen presence and really cool personality, man.
Well, Pierre comes to the table with some experience. He worked for the TV Rogers for a while, which is a community TV set. He has like, I don't want to speak for him, but like I think 4 years of daily live shows as a host, right?
That explains so much, man.
That explains so much. Yeah, the kid is pretty good, and so him and I, you know, we've been fans of Joe Robinette, Darwin from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of funny in our story because there's a 4-year period in my life where I didn't camp much, from like 20 to 24 until I had the kids again. Like the time that I was touring a lot, playing a ton of music, a little bit of touring.
Right.
And then the time I had kids and they were old enough, like that time. And we met just after I was finishing, coming back from playing music. And because he's also a really good guitar player.
Really?
There's so many of us. Well,
Dude, that's
I'm terrible
crazy.
compared to him. But he, anyways, and then when we, eventually, like 4 or 5 years in our relationship, I'm like, dude, you camp? I'm like, I camp. I'm like, what kind of camping, right? Like,
Right.
and we started to talk about it. I was like, dude, we got to get that going. So then we started to do our videos. I did a couple in French at first. I was just trying to put something out for my family out there, and it got such a huge hit. And I live in a very bilingual world, so for me, like doing them in French or English, it doesn't matter. Like it just is for us, right? My kids, I married an Anglophone. I'm French first, like my first language is French, and my kids go to a bilingual school. So it's like it's for us, like, and to be able to, you know, if I would have started my channel in French, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to connect with all of you guys too, right? So that's also a huge part. So, but we had started a couple of French videos at first, and then last year when all of you guys were starting, I had plans all along to start. That was always my plan from like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, my first French video to today. But I was building the house and I was so busy. I didn't have any time, right? So I was telling Pierre, I was like, oh, check out JK and this guy and this guy. And I'm like, we should start our own, man. It would be fun to jump on that. So
dude.
January 1st, that's what we did together.
I remember you and I chatted a lot on Instagram, of all places.
Yeah.
We chatted a lot on
places.
Instagram, and you were telling me that you were going to start this channel. And it was like 6 months before you actually started it. You know?
Yeah, because it was the plan all along. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. And, you know, it's funny the way mine started. I was doing the Sheltoe Trace, which is a long trail here in Kentucky. It's like 300. When I was doing it, was 323 miles. It recently got another 10 miles added on to that. So it's now 333. But I was doing that trail, and I was doing it to raise money for that Life Water organization I was telling you about. And so I decided I would just do this small little YouTube channel, and I was going to just put the trail videos on there so people who were giving money toward Life Water, who were supporting the hike, they could see what I'm doing. You know, that was it. I had no idea of doing anything else. That was it. And I thought, well, maybe I could do a little review of the trail afterwards and maybe talk about the gear I brought or something, you know, but that was it. There was no real plan for anything else. And I did this video, and I got 2 guys that commented on it. One was this guy backpacking with Jason, and he
cool guy.
During that video, I had said, I guess I'm a real backpacker now because I just pooped in the woods, you know, and so he comments, and it's a backpacking thing. So, you know, we're going to talk about pooping at some point, but So he then says, man, there's nothing like a good poop in the woods. That was his comment on my video. And then Dan Becker comments on the video. Okay. And now at the time, Dan was probably like 10,000, 11,000 subscribers, I think. He was starting to hit his stride.
Far in?
Yeah, he was starting to hit his stride, because this was June. Or no, he wasn't that far yet. No, he wasn't. I don't think he was that far. He was like 5,000 or 6,000 at that point, because I was still doing the trail videos, and that's all I was doing. And he goes, dude, I love your personality, man. You need to keep doing these things. That poop in the woods thing was hilarious. Oh, okay. So, I mean, this was like January or February, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool, and then I didn't think anything else of it. And a few months later, I'm on Facebook, and I'm like, admittedly, kind of Facebook stalking some other backpacking guys, just because I'm curious what they're like. You know, I've never met any of these guys, and thought it'd be cool to meet a couple guys. And Dan's profile came up, but it came up because he was from Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I had lived for 4 years. And we had a friend in common. And so I just randomly shot him a message and said, hey, Dan, my name is Jon Kelley. I've got the channel JK is Hiking. I noticed you're friends with this guy. And I lived in Kenosha for 4 years, and he was just a really good friend of mine. How do you guys know each other? That turned into a 30-minute conversation on Messenger, which then turned into him saying, hey, give me a call, talking for another hour. And then him giving me Jeremiah Stringer's phone number and saying, dude, Jeremiah Stringer lives an hour from you. You need to give him a call. And so I then called Jeremiah, and he was actually on his way to Nashville to get on a plane to fly north to do the long trail in Vermont. And so he had like a 3 or 4 hour drive, and we talked the entire drive on the way down.
Wow.
And we both admitted, we both said, hey, when you get back from the long trail, let's get together and hang out. And remember, I haven't done anything yet. You know, I haven't done any real videos or anything. So, and then
it's because
Yeah, it's
You started in the time where all of you guys started.
yeah, and it was crazy.
It's
Then
great timing.
then Jeremiah gives me Jason's phone number, Jason Waugh. He says, "Hey man, you need to get a hold of Jason Waugh." So I contact Jason, and we get together and we meet for lunch and we plan a trip.
Nice.
And so we plan to get together and go backpacking. And during all of this, Dan is trying to convince me to do talking head videos. And I'm just like, no, I don't know, man. I'm like,
he had to talk you into it?
Yeah, I wasn't going to do them. Yeah, there was no plan to do that. I was just like, I'm just going to do these backpacking videos and just leave it at that because they're hard enough and I don't want to, I just don't want to do it. I don't want, it's a big commitment. And like I said earlier, I have a problem. So I knew I'd have to get a better camera. I knew I'd have to get lights and I'd want it to look good because I don't want to be that guy that looks like he's talking through a GoPro 3, or something.
Yeah,
and
no, for sure.
So I
for sure.
He talked me into it.
I'm sticking around with my iPhone 11 because I can actually do some really decent work with it.
I'm actually getting an iPhone 11 Pro here soon, and that's going to be my trail camera. There's so much stuff you can do with that thing.
And here's what you got to get with it because it's called iFilmic Pro.
Yes,
it's the app, so it's $20. You buy it once. It's not an annual fee or anything like that. And what it does is it gives you all the range of all the it'll give you the ability to change your shutter speed, to change your ISO, it gives you everything, right? So because the iPhone 11 I find overexposes you constantly.
Oh yeah.
On manual settings. So you got to turn it down personally. And then I have these softbox here.
Yep, I have two.
Lighting is important.
Very.
You can't, regardless of the camera, without lighting, it's like playing in the middle of an empty cathedral music and trying to record yourself. It's gonna sound washed out, right? It's just there's nothing. You need a good room so it sounds good. With camera and pictures, you need good light so it looks good. But with that, honestly, man, you can get around quite a bit. It's not as crisp as what you can throw out there and what Dan, especially with the depth. I can't get that same depth.
Right. Well, the big thing
you can do some great things.
Yeah, well, the big thing I've learned, like when I was talking to Dan, I was shooting videos to Dan. Like nobody knows this. Dan really helped me at the beginning. I mean, really. I mean, I was a nobody. I had 30 subscribers. Okay, 30 subscribers. I'm still not much of anybody, but I was a nobody for sure back then.
Yeah.
And
you were like me right now.
I don't know. I just know like Dan was really like super cool. Like he and I hit it off really well, and I would send him videos and he'd give me feedback, and so I'd switch some things. My original musical intro that I had was 10 seconds longer than the one I went with. And he was the guy that said, dude, nobody wants to watch that every time they watch your video. So you got to shorten that thing, But that was the kind of advice I needed. And so he also then, he gave me a boost that to this day probably lets me do what I do now. Before that first talking head video came out, he said, when that video comes out, you tell me and I will put it on my community page on my channel. That way, hopefully some of my people will come over and watch your video. And so the day it was going to release, I told him the day it was going to release, what time. And that morning he posted that. And my first video that I posted had like 3,500 views. And
wow.
Yeah. And
huge.
Yeah, massive. Now the next one didn't, but the first one did. And so it was a good jumping off point for me, And
that's it, dude. My first video was 150 views.
Dude, my first trail video got 12. So you are a superstar compared to me on that one. But that was what he really helped me out, and
no kidding.
So, and then Jeremiah was also there. He was helping me out, understanding things about YouTube, like SEO and all things. I'm like, what the heck is all this?
Keywords.
What is this
how
stuff?
to rank.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. So Jeremiah was helping me with that. And then we kind of built this crew up between me, him, and Jason, where it was just kind of like we were this 3-man crew that just really enjoyed hanging out together, going backpacking together. Obviously, because of my job, I don't get to do a lot of weekend trips like they do. So they get to go out quite a bit more than I do. But we always try and get out together. And whenever we do, we're just laughing for a weekend, man. It's like the best thing.
Yeah.
And Yeah, like my whole journey started
I'm
with like
excited.
the long trail thing. So it was me and my buddy Brian,
Jeremiah?
who's the Flash, Trails in a Flash. If you ever
What?
seen him before, he's a cool dude. But he and I
Okay.
started backpacking on the Sheltowee Trace together. And when you hike 15 to 20 miles in a day, you get done at the end of the day. The last thing I'm worried about is starting a fire and sitting around. I just want to like eat my food, do my chores, go to bed, you know? And so
Yeah.
when I started hanging out with these guys and they get done at the end of the day and they're making campfires and they're doing all this stuff, I'm going, what is this? Like,
That's the
yeah.
fun.
And so now it's like my whole view of backpacking is flip flopped. I do more of the weekend warrior stuff now. I'm not as focused on big miles, although I would like to do some big mile hikes over the next couple of years if I can. But yeah, like it all came from me talking about pooping in the woods. So if you want to
That's so fun.
have your life changed, talk about pooping in the woods on a video and your life will change forever.
Well, here's the question. I haven't seen that part. Maybe you've already addressed it. But
Yes.
because I learned a trick that changed my life about pooping outside.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay.
So in my opinion, there are only two viable techniques. Unless you take your pants off completely, there are only two viable techniques so you keep that clean. So you either lean against a tree and you do the chair,
Yep.
or you grab the tree and you orangutan your way backwards.
That's me.
Once
I'm that guy.
Okay. Dude, well, I didn't know that for the first like 28 years of my life.
That's awesome.
It made pooping outside way easier.
Okay, but I have to be honest. The first time I pooped in the woods was not really that great of a way to do it, but it was the only option I had at the time. The Sheltowee Trace has a lot of road walking, and because of that,
Okay.
there's private property on either side of the road, so you can't walk into the woods to poop. And so I'm on this little dirt road that nobody's on, and I can't hold it anymore. Like I've been holding it because I'm like, I got to get past this road before I can go anywhere, you know? And finally I'm like, I just can't do it. So I just squatted over the ditch on the side of the road and prayed nobody came up over the hill and saw my big white butt sticking out, pooping in this ditch on the side of a road. That was the only option I had because I couldn't go into some guy's property. I could get shot in Kentucky for that, you know? And so here I am squatted over a ditch.
That's so
pooping in a
funny.
ditch.
Nobody caught you though?
No, like these roads are like old roads, and like nobody's out there. And if
Okay.
they are, they're the only one. You know what I mean? So I didn't have a lot. Still was nervous as all get out that somebody was going to see me out there and throw a fit. That here's this dude with his pants pulled down and pooping in the ditch on the side of the road. But honestly, there was no option. I couldn't go anywhere else, and I wasn't going to do it in the middle of the road either because that's just gross.
No, that's insane. But all that, you know, to come back, you know, Dan did a similar thing to me when he was about 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers. I had like, so last year I posted, I think one video
Right.
was my winter Adirondack video last year, which is the story of me freezing my 6 out of my 10 toes for 6 months.
Wow.
Okay? So that's the story where it is. And eventually, because I was commenting on his channel, and I guess he must have gone through there and he watched it and he said, hey, cool edits, you should make more, right? And we did chat it a couple of times over Facebook and all that. Didn't get much closer because I wasn't in the game either, right? Like at the time, like, and it's kind of odd. It's funny because I've told so many people, hey, I'm gonna be starting in January in the new year, like way early on, because what I was trying to do during that time, like, okay, I can't create content, but I see this community of outdoor backpackers, or, you know, and I've done the same in the canoe world, portaging world and all that, made connections. And to me, it was like, I want to be a part of that community. I don't care about the subscribers, and I just want to be a part of that. Like because there, let's be honest, like you guys are 300 million in the States. How many
something
camp?
like that, 350, I think.
How many of them camp?
I have no idea.
Of those, how many are willing to backpack
Right.
camp?
Yeah.
Right? So like there's just not that many people. So YouTube for me was the attraction. It was like, dude, look at all these guys. They're doing the same thing as me. And I mean, like, I'm not dedicated solely to backpacking. Like I said, like I love backpacking, I love bike packing, and I love portaging. These are kind of my three things that I do, and I wouldn't give one up for the other because they're just equally as fun, and they allow me to, you know, to just do different things, right? And also to bring the kids along, like bike packing and canoe tripping. I'm always with the kids. Hiking, I'm always alone because they're not quite there yet. And the other thing too is that financially, like I can't have them all equipped to go canoe camping and this and that, and you know what I mean. So it's one of those things where you got to pick at some point where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do. And I much prefer them having mountain bikes that they can ride all year, like throughout the entire summer, than a backpack and a quilt that they're gonna use twice, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things that's limiting. But to me, it was like, man, I want to be part of the community. And that was why I had the idea of starting the podcast.
Yeah.
And I said that earlier today. It's like, man, like here we are right now, right? Just getting to know each other. And you know, if ever our path would cross physically, I'm sure we'd have a blast
Oh my
out
gosh,
on those
yeah,
camping
dude.
trips.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wouldn't be, it'd be like anything else. You're right. Like for me, I'm like a chameleon. I can adapt myself to a lot of different situations. So you want to do a high mileage trip? Let's do a high mileage trip. I'll pump out as many as you want, like until I drop dead. I don't mind. Or you want to just go out and bushcraft a little bit more and cook a whole duck over top of a fire. I'm down too. Like for me, it doesn't matter.
I will
right?
tell you
So
this.
I'll adapt.
I will tell you
anything.
this. If you ever come to Kentucky, which I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but if you ever come to Kentucky and you backpack with myself, Jason, and Jeremiah, it's guaranteed that Jason is bringing ribeye steaks. I mean, like,
Nice.
here's the deal with us. It's if we're just doing an overnight, especially, we're bringing food.
Oh,
we're bringing
God.
food. We're not bringing Mountain House meals. We're not bringing North Sides. We're
Yeah.
bringing food. And so
Yeah,
it's so like this
absolutely.
last time we went out, Ben McMillan from Hilltop Packs came with us, and we went out to the Red River Gorge. It was before they closed everything, and
Nice.
we got out there, and literally Jason brought 4 ribeye steaks. I had made mashed potatoes from scratch that were like had like sautéed onions and garlic and chives and so much butter and cream in them. It was ridiculous. And
Nice.
Jeremiah brought these desserts from his wife. And I mean, we just decided, we're like, if we're going to go out, and we're going to do this, we're going to have some fun. And so, yeah.
feast.
And you can
Yeah.
always guarantee there might be an adult beverage or two out there as well. And so, yeah.
Oh,
And so
God,
we're just
yeah.
out there. We're just out there having a good time. Just, it's great because the cares of the world don't exist there. You know what I mean? And
That's
I
right.
think that's, for me, that's one of the big attractions of being out in the woods is the stress of the everyday 9 to 5 and just the stuff that's going on in the world disappears the moment you get into those woods, and you just get to finally kick back, relax, and just enjoy being there. And I think people need it. I don't think people realize how much they need it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
I think you said it right. There's something to be said about when you park your car, you strap your backpack on, or you jump in the canoe, you get going, and you immediately shed life behind. There's a part of
Oh,
you
yeah.
that just
Yeah.
if you know in the movies where you can see kind of like someone's like walking away and then you can see a shadow of themselves kind of disappearing. It's for sure a huge
Yeah.
and yeah, I've been trying to put it into words. I've been trying to understand that feeling a lot, actually, in the past little while. Especially, I've been podcasting a lot, so we've been having these conversations because it's a similar feeling that everybody gets. So for me, I was telling you as a child, I was super hyperactive and I just had a ton of energy, except when I was in the woods.
Oh
Because
yeah.
camping for me is not something I picked up late. Like I was very fortunate to be part of this since I was like 5, 6 years old. With my dad just going on different canoe trips and car camping at first, and then going to more and more adventures. I went to the Adirondacks when I was 12 the first time.
That's
I was
awesome.
super lucky, exactly, and yeah, as a child, it's so funny. You could never get me to read a book as a child. And my dad will tell you the stories of me leaving with a couple of books, climbing up on top of the top twig of a tree in a forest, and hanging out there for hours on end just reading. And there's this peace. For me, there's like a level of peacefulness that I get out of being out in the woods, and I'm trying to figure out, especially because depending on the situation, the more extreme, if you will, like winter,
Yeah.
like what I do in the winter time, like in the Adirondacks and sleeping outside at -40, and just like the hardship that I get, the more extreme I go, the better grip on reality, like the more I let it go, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
what I believe what ends up happening when I'm out camping, and I think for a lot of us, is on a day-to-day, what do you really need to be alive? Like you need to breed, you need water, you need food, you need shelter, you need
Warmth from the cold, maybe.
yeah, friendship as well, right? And I do most
Yeah.
of my I don't do that many solo trips. I have. It's not because I don't want to. It's because I much prefer going out with Pierre Antoine than alone, because I get to go so little already. So
I'm funny about that, dude.
yeah.
I'm funny about that. I don't mind solo backpacking, but I love backpacking with other people.
Mhm.
But I almost always like to hike by myself.
Yes, but yeah, two different things for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like if I'm out with a group of guys, like when there was a group of us, it was like me and Dan and the Schill brothers and Rob Pelton and Jeremy LaCroix and Chad and his buddy from UGQ. We all went out and we started hiking, and I just kind of stopped and let them go.
Yeah.
I just did my own thing.
Yeah.
And I would get to the end, they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm awesome."
Yeah. No,
I really
yeah.
I really like to hike by myself. I'm strange on that one. So
Yeah. No,
it's
I know what you
peaceful
mean
and-
though. But so
Yeah.
and the more extreme I go, the more I let things go, if you will, and because now, like for example, perfect example was my last trip this winter, or the last trip I did with Pierre in last summer on our big portaging trip. You get deep enough in the wilderness at some point that you're just it becomes, as much as it's not survival, like it's not like I'm eating slugs or anything like that. It's more like, but it does become to a point, you do get to a point where you become so vulnerable to anything. And when you get there, I'm not a very risky person. It's not like I take huge risks and I put myself in crazy situations. It's not that at all. It's more like at some point, you know that if you break your leg here, it's gonna suck for a long time, and it can be quite dangerous. And when you get there, I find like you forget everything. Like when we climbed Mount Haystack last February, it was -30 some Celsius. So our little thermometer at night would go -35 Celsius. At -40 Celsius, you and I meet Fahrenheit and Celsius. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was -30. It couldn't go down lower anymore. Like the thermometer was just set to -35. It just didn't have the ability to go lower. So it was colder than -35. We
Wow.
hiked up Mount Haystack. It was 60-mile-an-hour wind. Okay, so that kind of wind throws you off your feet. That makes you stumble.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was this massive sheet of ice. I'm talking like mountaineering crampons, like that clips on, and that mountaineering axe and everything. And that was so much fun because of the hardship that in that moment. And that's what I'm saying. When you get there, without putting yourself too much at risk, that's when everything goes. There's no time to think about work. There's just time to think about the next move and what you're gonna do right now. And a little bit like I was explaining at the beginning of the podcast about like the fact that I'm not buying anything anymore or just shopping, there's a weight that lifts off of you. Like these are not natural things we should be doing. There are things that society makes us do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of that. It's going back to our roots.
Devin from Backpacking Exposure.
Yeah.
He had this thing where he talks about stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 fun. And
level. Is it level? Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're almost talking like the stage 3 stuff, where at the moment you're not really thinking of it so much as fun as you are, okay, how do I get here? How do I get this done?
Exactly.
It may be painful, it may be stressful, but then when it's all over, you look back on it and go, man, that was incredible. We got to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's exactly
that was Kilimanjaro. That was Kilimanjaro for me.
Yeah.
When we summited the last day, the wind chills were -30, and we still had a mile
for
to
a
go.
Kentucky
and
boy, that's cold.
winds. For people in general, that's cold. I mean, we had like 30-mile-an-hour winds going. I mean, we're walking. I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me the whole time. And then every once in a while, you'd come up, there'd be a break, and you would see what you thought was the top.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the top. And all of this is being done at 19,000 feet. So you're not barely breathing, you know, like there's not a whole lot of wind. And so you're trying to give it everything you've got to get to the top. Dude, I got to that summit. I bawled my eyes out like a little baby, you know, because I was just like so overwhelmed with the fact that I made it. Dude, and I thought I was going to be a big pansy, and every guy that walked up after me, every one of them's crying their eyes out because it was just this huge accomplishment. And it sucked at times and it hurt at times, but you know, when it was all said and done, man, it was so good. And I want to go back. I want to take one of my kids with me.
You should,
you know, when they're old enough to do it.
I
really want to.
And for you, man, you started from a guy that had never done it, was not in shape to do that.
Right.
Lost all that weight, learned the skill of what it was going to be to do that. Like you took on a massive challenge, and you've lived through every step of those hardship to get there. Like I'm a huge believer in things not being easy.
Yeah.
Like
I'll be honest too, I don't like being the last.
Yeah.
You know, I said I have a problem like with the video stuff. I want my video to look really, really good.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the last guy up on the mountain. That was my thing. I don't want to be the last one. And out of 16, I was the third one. So, and the only reason I didn't go before that was because we had this high school kid who just really wanted to be the first one. And I wasn't really concerned about being the first one. You know, that wasn't a big deal for me. But I probably could have been, you know, because I was just so hyped up at that point. I wanted to get there so bad. And so when I trained, I was doing a stair climber for an hour and a half.
Whoa.
I got to the point where I was doing that, you know,
That's
and
big.
just going, like I would go and go and go and go. And I actually messed my back up doing that. I actually got a back muscle that got stuck underneath my shoulder blade. That was miserable. But that was right before I went too. So, dude, man, it was
How
was
is
awesome.
it standing on top of the world up there? Because it really is the top of the world there. Because I believe that like everything else is a plane around it, right? It's like the
Pretty
plains
much,
of Africa, and then this one giant tabletop.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 mountains there in Kenya, or not Kenya, Tanzania, that are these massive mountains, but they're not connected at all. And the Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. Like every other mountain that's above it is actually part of a range of mountains.
That's
so it's not actually standing by itself, but Kilimanjaro is actually the tallest freestanding mountain. And so you get up there and look down and you're seeing clouds below you.
Yeah, undercast.
Which is
I've
wild,
lived it
man.
only once, yeah.
Yeah, it's just wild. And there's this giant glacier up there that you see, and it's just massive.
There's a glacier up there?
There's a glacier on top of the mountain, yeah. And
in Africa, the only place where wow.
I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. And then the other thing that's really cool about the mountain is it was a volcano, like all mountains are, you know, at some point. But it had blown at one point, who knows how many thousands of years ago, and it had blown a huge crater out at the side of it near the top of the mountain. And was talking to some of the guides, and they said there's a chance that Kilimanjaro was up to like 5 to 6,000 feet taller potentially.
Whoa.
Because it was
That'd
just
be-
this massive section of it blown out.
Wow, that would be like a massive super volcano, like what you guys have in Montana. What's that park called again?
Yellowstone?
Yellowstone, yeah. Because that Yellowstone blew up and there's nothing left other than like what looks to be like a lake, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, that's scary. And that
Isn't
one,
that crazy to
Yellowstone,
think about, man?
is well, and you know, with what we're living today, you're gonna believe me. Well, you're gonna take this more seriously. Yellowstone is due any time now.
Yeah. It is.
And with what we're living today, people are gonna look at these possibilities with a different set of eyes now.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that there's movies that show it happening. It freaks people out a little bit. So.
Oh shoot. No, that's cool, man. That's really cool. I've really appreciated following you from the beginning to where you are right now on your YouTube channel. I've really appreciated you taking the time to reply back and forth. Like, especially, it's kind of funny because I know exactly how important it is for me to reply to my comments because I remember what it was being a fan first.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you I remember when I posted my first video of 2023 reasons why to go more outside this year, whatever, something along those lines. You did the same thing, threw it on your community tab, and you told Jeremiah Stringer, and both of you guys jumped on as subscribers, and I really appreciate that. That was really kind of you to do that.
I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I was talking to Jeremiah the other day about this. I still can't believe people watch me talk on their TVs or on their computers or their phones. Or I just, the thought of that blows my mind. It's like, who like wants to sit and watch me talk? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, even if a video has 100 views of it, I'm going, 100 people actually sat down and watched me talk on purpose. Like, they meant to do it. And that blows my mind. The idea that there are 2,000 people that have chosen to subscribe to my channel. That just, I don't get it. It blows my mind every time. I don't think, and I don't know if I'll ever lose that. I think I'm just always appreciative. And anytime somebody comments, I always comment back. Because I just appreciate people. I appreciate the fact they do it. Even the people that are jerks, because you get those comments every once in a while. And I'll usually, I'll even comment back to them. I may block them after that, but I will comment, and I just really appreciate what we get to do. I mean,
it's pretty cool, eh?
It's pretty awesome. And I just love the fact, like I got to meet this whole community of people I never knew before. I know you're in freaking Calgary or what'd you say? You're near Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
What the heck? I'm in Kentucky. I'm friends with Justin Hick and Jesse Manti and Maddie St. Arnaud.
Justin
and
is out of Calgary.
And they're all the way out there. They're in the other end of your country. And I've met people from like Denmark and Germany and all these places.
It's awesome.
And it's unbelievable.
And just like Justin Hick from Justin's Outdoors, he's from Ottawa, right?
Really?
He is. So his parents are still here. So when he comes back down around Thanksgiving, we were thinking about putting something together, him and I.
Oh, you need to.
And Pierre as well. So anyways, trying to get that organized. But if anything comes out of this whole YouTube thing, the community, the friendships, the people, and for me, the memories of my trip videos. The trip videos is what I like doing the most personally. Mm-hmm. Especially when I go out with the kids. These home videos on steroids. If I didn't, my biggest regret is not having started 3 years earlier. Because these were the craziest trips I done.
Yeah.
Right? When the kids, Rosie was wearing diapers 24/7 the first time I did 3 days on as a bike packing trip with her.
Wow.
You got to think
That's
these were the
awesome.
moments I wish I had the videos for, and I have a single picture of.
Yeah, I don't have any video that I took from Kilimanjaro.
Oh, how sad is that?
Yeah, right. I think back on that. I go, man, that's when I should have started doing this. That's when I should have started. Just to be able to have those memories. I have pictures, and I have video that other friends took, but there are things that I would have videoed that didn't get done. And so there's just some things I really miss that I wish I could look back on and see what happened, certain little areas that we had to cross that were scary and all that.
We get to look forward now. John, we're closing in on an hour and 45 minutes, the longest podcast so far here on the PE podcast. So I really, really appreciate your time here on a Wednesday night. Thank you so much for jumping in. I really appreciate it. I had a blast getting to know you. Why don't you tell the folks at home where they can find you? All, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, if you're on there.
I'm not been to TikTok yet. That's a little.
I'm just waiting for the first backpacker to go on TikTok, and then I'll be like, gotta go.
Jeremiah Stringer's already there. I will tell you, he's already there. So just a heads up on that one. Just JK is hiking on YouTube. JK is hiking on Instagram. Same on Facebook. I've also got jkshiking.com, which is a channel I don't update, or a page I don't update enough. But you can find me in all those. Also, do the Backpacking Podcast, and we're on all of your major podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, Google Podcasts or whatever. It's on all of them. So you can find me at all that stuff.
Yeah, and for the folks at home, the podcast is really good. If you guys enjoy podcasts, I really appreciate you and Jeremiah's podcast.
I appreciate that.
Check it out. Thank you, buddy.
Yes,
Have
sir.
a good one.
You too.
All right.